I want to talk for just a second about the idea of creation. You know, we've got a class here at the school where we teach on creationism and the biblical idea that God created things exactly the way that He said He did in the book of Genesis. And so there's a lot of debate even within the Christian community about how this unfolded. Can we believe that creation lasted in only 7 days? Was that metaphorical? And then you come in with scientists now who have what they call evidence, right, of a long history to the earth. They look at rock formations, they look at the solar system and things like that, and they're very concrete in their belief that the earth has been here much longer than the biblical record. And so the common approach then has been to either say either science is right or the Bible is right. In fact, so much so that I've seen many well-meaning Christian scholars and many well-meaning pastors and people in the community of faith begin to doubt the authenticity of the kind of literal approach of the Bible, that God created these things, as He said, in day increments, 7-day period. Because they say, scientific evidence is pretty clear that the earth has been here a long time. And so it puts us in kind of a weird position as believers. Do we want to say that science is wrong when it appears that they're very correct? Or do we want to say that the Bible is wrong, or is there some kind of middle ground? And I think the approach that many of us in the Christian community have taken is to either try and make the biblical text be some kind of metaphor, that to say that each day must have been a really long period, or there's all kinds of ways to explain it away. Or we say that science has got some kind of false information, some kind of false findings that they're putting forth. And really, what I want to put forward is just a different way of thinking about it that doesn't require either way, right? And so, to begin, I would tell this story, and if I was teaching the class, this is one of the illustrations that I think really brings it home. And it begins in Genesis when God's creating Adam, and then out of Adam He produces Eve, right? So you know the story. God puts Adam into a deep sleep, and then He pulls a rib out of Adam's side and creates Eve, right? And so the idea is then that Eve and Adam then are together, right? And so one thing that people often don't think about is, okay, Eve, when she was created by God, was created apparently as an adult, right? That there's no record of Adam raising her as a child or having to feed her like a baby or anything like that. The record indicates that when Adam came from his sleep, he realized that they could be united together, right? And so there is no record of her being a child or anything like that. So the implication is that Eve is created by God, and she seems to be at least in early adulthood of some kind, right? And so the implication there then for us as believers is that Eve is created fairly much as an adult state, right? There is no childhood. So if you took all of the best scientific knowledge that you had and said, how old is Eve? When you looked at her, you might say 20 or 30. I don't know what she looked like when she was created, but we do seem to know that she wasn't created as an infant. And so she was in an adult form, whether it was late teens, 20s, 30s, who knows, but she was in some form of adulthood. And so if you used everything that you know about science, you would say, well, clearly it takes a person at least 20 years to get to the age that she was. So, scientifically, Eve would have had to have been at least 20 years old, but according to the record, she was only 1 day old, right? And so the idea is that God created Eve in a mature state, right? And so everything that we know about science tells us that a woman can't reach that stage of maturity in a single day, and that it would have had to have taken her 20 or 30 years to have reached the age that she was, but it didn't take that long. It only took 1 day. And I think what we tend to lose sight of in the scientific debates is the fact that God can create something in a mature state. And I believe this is really where, as believers, we need to go back in and look and say, okay, if everything we know about science says that the earth should be way old, that doesn't necessarily contradict anything that the Bible says, because God can make things in a mature state. Eve should have been 30 or something years old, but she was only 1 day, because God creates things in a mature state. And so I believe this is a really important way to view creation, that just because science says the normal process should have taken the earth thousands, millions, billions of years to reach the state that it is, doesn't mean that it had to have taken God that long to create it. That God could create the earth in a mature state in the same way that He created Eve in a mature state. And when you look at the earth, everything we know says it should be much older. But God says He created it in 7 days. And so that's some valuable perspective, right, for understanding the creation debate.